calling the March 11th, 2019 General Government Meeting to order. First up, we need approval of the agenda as presented.
Motion.
Have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Next up, item 3 will be public comment. Is there any public comment? If so, please step forward. Last chance for public comment, otherwise you wait till the end of the meeting. Okay, we'll go on to item 4, our committee items. First up, 4A, we need to approve the minutes as presented for February 11th, 2019.
Motion.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Next up, we have appointments. Okay, the first appointment we have is Land Bank Authority for 2 terms. They expire in October of 2021. 2 categories, nonprofit corporation representative and real estate representatives. We currently have no current members and no applicants, so we must re-advertise that. Unless there's any motions from the floor. Okay, next up for appointments, we have the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. General public, 3 seats. Current members are Mark Schupmeyer, James Seitz, and Brad Berlinski. All 3 have applied for a new term that expires 3 of 22. Do I have a motion to move these on to the full board for appointments?
Motion moved.
We have motion support. We'll move them on, all 3, for appointment to the full board. Next up is our last appointment for this month. It'd be Economic Development Corporation, public member. This seat is till March of 2025. Currently, Jason Sanders, and Jason Sanders has reapplied. Do we have any more motions? We have no other applications. A motion from the floor.
Motion. Support.
We will send him, Jason Sanders, to the full board. Thank you, board. That gets our application appointments out of the way. We will move on to 4C, Conservation District semi-annual report. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I am Lori Fitzgibbons. I am the district manager of the Jackson County Conservation District, and I will be discussing all the activities of the district since we were here last in September of 2018 at the county affairs meeting. A few things that we have ongoing right now is our 2019 spring tree sale. I've been gone for the past 10 days on vacation, and when I got back, I had a huge stack of trees, sale orders, and we were already ahead of where we were last year, so things are looking good for this year. Our no-till grass grain drill rental, the numbers are going to be higher this year than they usually are due to the fact that there's a lot of farm bill programs that are going to be implemented this year on local lands. And also the DNR will be doing drill maintenance on that drill for us to get it in better working order. The household hazardous waste collection event was September 23rd of 2018. Numbers were down a lot from the year before. I'm assuming it's because there was such a huge amount of people that came in 2017 and there was such a long wait. I don't think people wanted to deal with that. We collected 31,130 pounds of hazardous waste, which is about half of what we collected the year before. It's still 31,000 pounds, so it's significant. 18,700 pounds of latex paint was collected, and about 14,000 pounds of electronic waste that we kept out of landfills. Our annual meeting banquet was held on January 22nd this year. We had 100 people RSVP. It was supposed to be a great night except for the weather, so we had about 80 people show up. Steve Noble was reelected to the board for a 4-year term, and Dr. Rebecca Grummet, which is a horticulture professor from MSU, is the speaker for that evening. She spoke about GMOs. As far as volunteers, this year, or in the past 6 months, we had 12 volunteers, each volunteer 8 hours of time, each at the Household Hazardous Waste event. And 7 volunteers collected samples at our Fall Adopt a Stream program. And then our Winter Stonefly Hunt, which was supposed to be held in February, had to be canceled because of the extreme cold. And there was, all the sites that we wanted to sample on the Grand River were all frozen. As far as grant administration right now, we are administering 5 grants through the district. The Conservation Technical Assistance Initiative, which is our CTI grant, they're currently working on several inventory and evaluations on possible pipelines and stream crossings, and on designs for pipelines, grade stabilization, and roof runoff in Jackson County and some surrounding counties also. Another grant is our Hunter Access Program grant. We still currently only have 1 property enrolled in the program, Mrs. Michelonis, which has got about 140 acres in Jackson County and another 140 actually a little bit more than 140 in Ingham County. That grant might be going away because of Jackson is now considered a CWD county, so some of that money that used to be going to that program will now be more focused on the CWD problem. Chronic wasting disease. Let's see, the MEEP grant, which is the Michigan Agricultural Environmental Assurance Program. We have 1 full-time tech assisting farmers. It's a volunteer program to make their farming operations more environmentally compliant. Right now, he is working with the landowner and NRCS to help rectify a situation of manure discharge into a local lake. He's working with the farmer in Concord on his the new piggery that's coming, and lots of other issues in the area. Let's see, the Michigan Invasive Species Grant Program. We have a full-time technician representing Jackson, Lenawee, and Washtenaw counties. She's been very busy. She finalized the strategic plan for the JLW SISMA, did some field examinations with NRCS, has been working a lot with Washtenaw County on the stiltgrass issues and with the DNR, has helped community members dispose of invasive species. She's been presenting at local organizations like Hidden Lake Gardens, and she was a speaker at Lenawee Conservation District. She's been seeking out more partners, including Michigan Audubon, Grand River Raisin, etc. She started a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages and has been continually posting on there. Has been doing a lot of research on other invasives, such as parrot feather. Outreach displays, flyers, brochures, postcards, all the educational information, getting it out there. And also the website, she's doing blog posts on relevant topics. And she had just had a recent display at the Women's Expo. And our 5th grant would be the Scrap Tire Collection Grant. We did receive $24,000 or $22,000 last year, and we have applied and received $24,000 for 2019. Of the 19 townships in Jackson, 12 townships have already scheduled cleanups for the 2019 spring and summer season. Countywide collection will be held in August for the townships not participating or for anybody who misses their date. We are applying for the second round for the Michigan Invasive Species Grant. That will be due usually about December of this coming year, because this is a 2-year grant that ends in 2020 currently. Some upcoming events. We have Adopt a Highway is coming up in April, our spring tree sale. Project Red, Earth Day, and Arbor Day are all in about a 10-day span of each other. That's all coming up in April. Native plant sale is in May. Scrap tire collections start in April and go all the way through August. We'll be at the Learning Fair, Jackson County Fair, Great River Cleanup, Outdoor Jamboree, and another hazardous waste collection event is scheduled for September 21st of this year. Is there any questions? Yes. And I forgot, entirely to talk about the recycling coordinator. So
Pardon me?
I forgot to talk about our recycling coordinator, too. She's got a big list here, too, if you have any
Okay, go
questions
ahead,
about
go
that. She's been busy doing website maintenance, monthly newsletter. She redid the Jackson County Recycling Guide for this year. She was the one that applied for the scrap tire grant. She's had booths at Jaxpo and the Women's Expo. She's doing working on another worm composting workshop, working with Granger on their Recycling Right campaign, which involves recycling contamination education, working with local schools on a poster contest, and right now she's trying to organize a 2019 Future of Recycling forum for Jackson County residents and recycling organizations and haulers, since recycling is kind of going through a lot of changes right now, so that's a big deal. And also, we're continuing to work with Polly's Country Market to sell recycling bags. Sorry about that.
There's where a lot of my questions are directed. The tire grant,
Yes.
have the locations already been chosen?
Yes.
I have 150 people driving in every Saturday at the Modern Waste Transfer Station.
I did post it on our website, or our Facebook page. We got a lot of shares and hits on there if they want to check it. They're all listed on there, and I think they're all also listed on my website.
Well, if you care to use the facility
Oh.
for a tire drop-off, we're welcome to having you there.
Oh, okay.
We currently accept tires, but there's a fee involved because we have to pay $2.50 to get rid of them.
Okay.
And we're right in the middle of Napoleon, Columbia, Norval, Grass Lake areas, so
I
it
think,
could be, we're basically the southeast quadrant of Jackson County,
right.
so
And
that's available.
I
if you
think
need.
Napoleon, Grass Lake, no, Napoleon, there's a couple in that area that do have their own collections scheduled. I'm not exactly sure where that location is going to be.
Also, I think it was Thursday, I had a fellow in to see me about recycled commodities and how to get rid of them. And he let me know that India has just closed their borders to receiving imported recyclables. So we now have China that stepped away. Now India just stepped away last week. Getting very difficult.
Yes, it is.
Cardboard is an example. OmniSource, I have to take mine to Detroit now to get cardboard recycled.
And cardboard's usually the easy one.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So if you have outlets develop, please share.
Okay.
Thank you, that's all I have.
All right.
It's
Thank you.
getting hard, very hard.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Any questions, Board?
Yes. Right now, it's scheduled for the fairgrounds. It's supposed to be, the fair is going to be in August, so we should have a space available in September for that collection there.
Any further questions? Just one more question. Daniel?
Good morning.
Morning.
Just a one quick question. I'm just curious for the tree sale.
Yes.
Are the variety of trees that you guys offer for sale right now like listed on the website, and then just the regular number that's up at the top of the document, the 395-2082?
Yes.
Is that where you would call to place an order?
Yeah, you could, I have catalogs. It is all listed online. They're on the website, and there are order forms and everything on there too, or you can call and place an order over the phone,
Okay.
or I can send a catalog.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your report, nice and condensed and to the point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good report. Next up, we are at 4D, our quarterly treasurer report. Welcome, Karen.
Good morning. How is everyone today? Good. All right, so I'm going to walk through the report that I presented. I sent this out to all of the commissioners on Monday, March 4th in the afternoon, so you've had about a week to digest it. It's quite a lengthy document, but you've seen this before from me. I've done this for many years, probably, 9 years now, 7 years at least. And I have added some information, but I'm going to kind of just hit some highlights. I'm not going to go through it ad nauseum, but and always will welcome questions as we go through. So the first page is something that I decided to add. It talks about the constitutionality and the statutory requirements of the Office of the Treasurer, so that is something new. unless there's any questions there, I'm going to move on to, let's talk about our goals for 2019. Pretty excited about some changes that have happened throughout the county, specifically our county IT department, and we have a new IT director. So a couple of the goals that I want to talk about, I'm really looking forward to implementing them in 2019. It's kind of been at a stalemate. The first one there, collaborate with the county IT department and research on base digital platform for records archival in our office. This is a long time coming. We're so paper heavy, paper reliant in our office. I was holding out, trying to hope that the state of Michigan and their Department of Archives was going to roll out their pilot program to help counties with records retention and getting things archived. Well, they never rolled it out. So when I had a meeting with our county IT director, she says, I can help you with that. And I said, that's wonderful. So I am very much looking forward to moving our office into the 21st century and trying to archive a lot of our records. If you walk through the vault area, there's tons of boxes that come from our office. Records retention states that we've got to keep these for sometimes up to 20 plus years. So there are some records that we have to still keep on hand. Our financial records, we've got to keep 7 years plus 1. So there are some limitations, but if we can realize some efficiencies there as far as scanning and archiving our records, we're definitely looking forward to doing that. And the second bullet point also talks to that. So that's exciting, and excited that our IT director is willing to take on that very huge task with us in our office. The next item I want to talk about also revolves around the IT department and the IT director, her willingness to talk about government to government. It's a program that Oakland County has rolled out, and it's been around since 2010. I'm sure that she's talking to you about this, but it's all about trying to realize efficiencies through economies of scale and credit cards throughout the county. We have many different credit card merchant card vendors throughout the county, and we need to get more uniform. And hopefully this program will help us with that. So we're excited to explore that with the IT department as well. So then if we move on through the report here, here's just basic information about custodian of county funds. There's some dollars, there's outputs here. I like to give you those, kind of shows you the activities that we have throughout our office. Then we talk about the investment pool, and stop me if you've got any questions, but I'm just going to continue on through the report. Okay, and let's get into the nitty-gritty. Delinquency, forfeiture, and foreclosure. On page 11 here talks about the beginning of the process, delinquent property or delinquent parcels that come through to us. Settlement happens every March 1st. We are right in the thick of it. It's March 11th, so we are settling with all of our local townships, city, and villages right at the point. Just to give you some numbers, some history, that this little chart shows you visually, that in 2017 we settled with all the local units to the tune of $10 million, just over $10 million, and that was for 9,800 parcels. So that's down as far as parcel count, but up as far as dollar-wise, so that tells me that the value of property was a little bit higher. That's why you see a little bit of difference there as compared to years past. Yes, Commissioner.
For everybody here, could you describe to us what you are referring to as settlement with the townships?
Yes, every March 1st, the local units turn over any of their property taxes that remain uncollected with their unit. And it's not a flip of the switch. We actually meet with all of the local units and sit down with them and go over their tax collections and make sure that we can confirm and match exactly the totals they say that they collected and what we collected and distributed and dispersed onward all matches. And when we match to the penny, that's when we bring those taxes into our system, and they're then considered delinquent. And the delinquent collection process starts at that point in time. Does that help clarify?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so the dollar figure is important here because every year, I buy all of those taxes that remain uncollected from the local unit to the tune of that $10 million. So our county is set up that we have the delinquent tax revolving fund, and those dollars pay for those taxes during the settlement process each and every year. So I need to make sure, cash flow wise, that we have this dollar amount available to write the checks, so to speak, to all the local units to pay them for those taxes. Okay, so that's kind of settlement in a nutshell, but it goes into further detail here. This shows you visually the property tax timeline. Our forfeiture, that's the second year in the cycle that we're still collecting those delinquent taxes. The good news here is that number decreased last year. That's always a good thing in my mind. It means it's less parcels that are coming delinquent to the county. There's the dollars that support that, and then foreclosure and foreclosure prevention. This is near and dear to my heart. I think we do a very good job in my office to talk about the many ways that we can prevent foreclosure from happening. Not much has changed over the past couple of years. We still partner with MSHDA. We still partner with Step Forward Michigan. We still partner with Community Action Agency, South Central Legal Services. All of those partners work with our office to try to do what we can to get citizens connected to resources to prevent foreclosure from happening in our county. There's the details on numbers and dollars. I'm going to flip here through to at the end of the cycle last year, which would have been March 31st, we ended up foreclosing on 137 properties. That's down from years past. The year previous was 152, I believe. Yep, there's the chart. So a good thing. Those numbers are decreasing. And this, I like this chart right here, this foreclosure history, because it's very indicative of what we've come through as a county, and it does show the economic issues and crises that we experienced through the 2009, 2012, 13 year. You can see it peaked in 2012. The good thing is those numbers are decreasing, and we hope that that downward trend continues. Here's a map of the county to show where those 137 parcels were. Okay, this is a new new page that I included, and there's a lot of data in here, so I'm going to spend a minute to kind of walk through and explain what this information means. This isn't new to me, because we always present these numbers as far as the audit is concerned, and we collect this information for year end. So what this basically means is, I'm going to go towards the bottom here and talk about the highlighted figures. Okay, so the first column talks about the foreclosure year. So if you go to the fourth column over there, it says 2018/2015. That means in 2018, which was last year, we foreclosed on those tax delinquent parcels for the 2015 tax year. Remember, we're collecting delinquent taxes for 25 months before we foreclose. So it's important to note that those taxes are from the 2015 tax year, okay? And when we settled for 2015, back in 2.5 years prior to that, we bought those taxes from the local units to the amount of $10 million, $10,233,000, right? So we paid everybody off, and now the Treasurer's Office becomes the collector of those taxes. So we paid out $10 million to all the local units, made everybody whole. We purchased with that $10 million 10,468 parcels, which is the third column, okay? We went through our 25-month-long process, sending at least 11 notices, making personal contact with the taxpayers, knocking on their doors at least once. They received certified mail from us. There were publications in the Jackson Citizen Patriot in December twice. All of the things that were required by statute for us to do to notify all those taxpayers, and I'm happy to report that we got that $10 million down to just over $102,000. So we whittled that way down, and we ended up foreclosing on 137 parcels. So when people talk about foreclosure as a big issue, yes, it's a big issue, because you're talking about displacing people. But I want you to know, if you look at this chart here, what this is saying is it's less than 1%. In Jackson County, it's less than 1% of those, as far as the tax base for that year, was less than 1%. Now, it's 1.31% of the total number of parcels. So it's about 1.25% of those parcels that come to us delinquent that we are foreclosing on. Now, if you look through here, there's history, and obviously if you look at 2000, 2008, 2009, 2010, you can see those numbers spike. Right? That's indicative. We showed you that. You saw that on the graph earlier. So it's important to note foreclosure is important, but it's about 1% in Jackson County that we foreclose on. And again, this is a lot of information, a lot of data. Are there any questions about that? And this is new. You haven't seen this from me before, at least presented this way. Yes?
Sorry, just watching the meeting from the other day made me realize how important it is to speak into the mic.
Yes.
So I'm just curious. I'm just curious how that compares to any other counties that you know of. I appreciate having that information because we've had quite a few discussions
Yes.
On foreclosures and,
Yes.
and what we can do to curb this trend that we've seen.
I wish that the state collected those specific data points, but I can tell you, because I've heard it directly from the Oakland County Treasurer's mouth, he has said that 97% of his taxpayers pay 97% of his taxpayers pay their taxes before foreclosure. Again, perspective, right? And it's not to lessen the 3% or the 1% or the 2% of the people that we're talking about that's impacted, but scale. I can tell you that on one of these other pages here, actually the next page, there's a graph here that talks about just raw numbers of foreclosures. So as far as where Jackson is compared, and you'll see the history, 2009 to 2018, we've always been below the state foreclosure average, percentage-wise. So as far as county by county, Commissioner Mahoney, that data's not been collected yet, but I can tell you our county treasurers are looking at it, because I think it tells a very important part of the story that often gets missed. But I don't have that readily available. But I do have Oakland counties. You're welcome. All right, so we'll move on to delinquent personal property tax. That's kind of remained, the trend is still there, about $36,000 that we collected. On to the dog and kennel license program. This gives you the breakout of the new impact of the fee breakdown that we did when we implemented back in 2015, 2016 for the single-year licenses and the 3-year licenses, and it's talking about whether the dog's spayed or neutered. And there's the license breakdown that way.
Karen, if I may,
Yes, please.
I want to commend your office and thank you for all the hard work you've done on licensing. As you know, in the past, we've been in all kinds of different positions with this, and the Board of Commissioners have stepped up and helped pass a millage for animal control. And with a new director and everything out there, I would hope that we could figure out a way to work with your office to coordinate license purchasing at the shelter when people get their dogs, because I am kind of worried that people have to walk away with an unlicensed dog from the shelter if they adopt one of our animals. And I just think I'm hoping there's a way, whether we can use an ATM or
There certainly is a
some type-
way.
What's that?
There certainly is a way.
Good.
And now that we have a new director at the brand new revised and recreated animal control shelter, I look forward to having very good conversations with her about that. And in fact, I already have. What it boils down to is, right now we have 5 physical licenses in our office, and it can be very cumbersome and doesn't make a lot of sense. And the reason is because the license program and the licensing in general is based on the month of the vaccination expiration. So it's a timing issue. So we have some people who want a 1-year license, that's one tag. We have some people who want a 3-year license, that's one tag. Then we have people, depending on where they are in the system of renewing and/or getting a new license, they can get a different tag. So as far as internal controls are concerned with the actual physical dog license, we'd like to keep them in-house. But that doesn't mean that they still can't get their license. We've got a 24/7 access portal. And all we need to do is get a computer over there, and I'd like to see them get a scanner as well, because when they get their license documentation and their rabies vaccination, they can just slide it through the machine, attach it through the portal, fill in their necessary information. We then get notification that they've applied for a license, we verify it, and then we mail them a license.
I want to thank you for that. I wasn't aware of that enhancement.
Yes, it's been in
and
place.
Thanks a lot,
Yeah,
again.
you're welcome.
And I hope we continue to make this to be a good experience for
I agree.
the dogs and families involved.
I agree.
And I really appreciate your office at stepping up and helping us.
Sure, absolutely. And anything we need to do to make it happen, Lydia, our new director, she's had her hands full the past couple of months. So I've been on the back burner. She's got more important things like hiring staff and control officers. So believe you me, I've been in her ear and said, we need to have a conversation as to how we can make this one-stop shopping experience a reality. I know that we've been asked before about veterinarians. It is my hope that now that we've worked out all the bugs with this new program, that we can talk to our veterinarians now. But it's more important to me for the animal control to get up and running first before we start doling it out to the veterinarians. So, yes, it's absolutely possible. Yes, we're well aware of it. I will say that they're going like gangbusters at the animal control shelter. In fact, I heard it's March, they're going door to door and knocking on people's doors. So we have already seen a significant increase of people coming in and calling and inquiring about dog licensing. So they're on the move. They're doing great things at the animal control shelter, and it's making a difference. We will probably see a blip in a revenue increase because of that, because they're going out and doing the enforcement. As you know, that was a piece that was sorely missing in our dog licensing program. So I do appreciate the commissioner's role in making that happen, because we want a safe community, and when dogs are licensed, they're not running amok and not being vaccinated, it can be a health concern. So this program can work, and I think we're going to see good things come out of it. Yes?
The portal, that's available at the animal shelter only? Can it be accessed
It's
online?
24/7, it's online access, anybody can do it. You can sit in your jammies and order your dog licenses.
The county website, Treasure?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
You said it's at the county website?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it has its own separate license, email address, but I can certainly send that out to you all.
I would like that, because I get a lot of complaints from my constituents.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah? Commissioner Duckham?
You said the animal control staff are going door to door.
That's what I've heard.
They're going door to door doing what?
Checking to see if they have a dog, and if they do have a dog, whether or not it's licensed.
So now they're an investigative authority?
I don't know the answer to that, but that's what we've heard. We've heard people coming in and saying that animal control knocked on our door.
I think they're pushing their legal limits there. They come to my house, I'll tell them, get out of here, you need a warrant.
Well, it is the law, so
Yeah, it's the law, they need a warrant to go on private property.
understand. I guess you'll have to raise that issue with the animal control, but
I believe that's correct, that they would go door to door like that. We don't have the staff for go door to door of tens of thousands of properties in our county.
that's just what we've heard.
My
so.
guess would be if they see a dog running loose and it runs up to that house, they would go knock on that door. Because clearly they witnessed a violation of the law and have the authority to go and ask, hey, you need to take care of your dog or whatever the case may be. If the dog is out in the street or something like that. But no, we're not doing anything more like that. I can't imagine.
Even if they see an animal loose, how they know whose home that came from. About 2 in the morning, I had a state police knocking on my door because a cow got hit in the road out in front of my house.
We don't license
Well, they
cows.
saw, no, but they were looking to file a animal at large complaint. And he saw that I had a electric fence, and he said, "Hey, your cow's loose." I said, "No, it's not." He said, "Well, it's in there. It got hit in the road. Not my cow." He said, "What's your fence for?" "For horses." "Go away."
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. I know my wife tells a story. Oh, no, I won't go there, but,
Okay, any other questions about dog licensing? All right, and on to passports, last and final news. We have seen an uptick in the issuance of passports. You may or may not know, the post office across the street also is a passport acceptance facility, but they have changed their process and want to be an appointment only. So as a result of that, we've seen an increase in passport issuance. So our office has been real busy with that, especially at the beginning of this year. January, February, March are real busy months because people are planning their vacations, so. And really, that is all that I have. This last page I wanted to include because this was featured in the Michigan Association of Counties newsletter back in June. And why they chose me is because I am, or was, the president of the Michigan Association of County Treasurers, and was basically the voice for that association. And it just goes to talk about all of the work and efforts that county treasurers throughout the state do to prevent foreclosure. Any questions that I may answer?
Morning, Karen. I have a question. I let my passport expire, and I had to go through an application, and someone sent it someplace in New Hampshire, and on and on and on. Okay, I could have done all that here at your office?
It depends on the situation, and we don't necessarily set those guidelines. The State Department of State does that, and we follow those rules. If it was expired, I think you can do that on your own online. If you lose it, there's a different form that needs to be filled out. If there's just a lot of different circumstances. So, did you get your license,
I
your
did.
passport renewed?
I did.
Okay, good.
But during the government shutdown, too?
Oh, there you go. Well, you can come get that in my office if you need to do that again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Really just a comment. I just wanted to say thank you again for the brief few minutes that we got to spend to talk about the land bank, and
Yep.
I will be looking forward to hearing or seeing that report that we talked about that you're pulling together for the land bank.
Very
Again,
good.
thank you.
Yep.
And if you need anything, let me know.
I know where to find you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. In front of you, you have a request for office furniture for the Treasurer's Office.
Unanimously? Wasn't that easy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Next up, 4F, Parks. And JDOT, are you both coming up?
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. What you have before you here is a preview of, and basically just for discussion this morning, we will be opening bids for the Fairgrounds project on Wednesday at 2 p.m. And so we just wanted the community to be aware that we're hoping to take this to the full board for approval, provided that the bids are favorable. This is for all of the site work to be done here before August this year that would get the entire project ready for the fair and fully improved. Basically, it's part of the vision. You might recall this fall that we approved a design contract with Smith Group to assist us. We at JC Dot have been serving as your representatives and working with Jeff as Parks Director to make sure that the plans and specs meet our criteria and providing support services as needed. Any questions?
Discussion. I have a question.
Jeff, you might want to be nearby. Jeff, you might want to come up.
Say questions? Okay. Oh, sorry.
Just when you say
Yes.
opening bids, I'm sorry. When you say opening bids, are you saying you will be receiving bids? What exactly does that mean? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the project was put out to bids here about 4 weeks ago now, and we were hoping to have opened the bids by now and presented the findings to you, but the project is quite complicated because it's an existing site with a lot of electrical issues and various requirements to be met, and so we issued an addendum a little over a week ago that we felt the contractors needed a little more time. If you rush things like this, you wind up paying higher prices. So we didn't want last-minute submittals that are overinflated. We wanted to make sure that we give contractors the maximum amount of time to get you the best prices.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
My
So yes, we
question-
opened the bids on Wednesday, to be clear, and then we'll see the prices. We open them all at the same time. We receive sealed bids at that time. It'll be at JC Dot at 2 o'clock Wednesday.
Christopher, your part in this is just to lend your expertise in this area of excavation and ground preparation. You're not bidding on it as a county, correct?
Our crews will be performing some of the demolition work and definitely involved with the parking lot area. We hope to use our new recycling equipment to make a durable base for the parking lot area, which will save money for the project. But even if we weren't doing that work from our crews side, we as a group of engineers, we're the technical experts for the county. So we basically support the Parks Department as technical representatives in making sure the consultant has what they need and that they're providing us with the services promised.
Okay, that's clear for me. Thank
Sure.
you. Any discussion? If not, I need a motion or support to proceed with this.
Second.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Passes unanimously. Next up will be Parks, purchase of a 2019 Bobcat.
Good morning. The staff report, I think, is pretty clear. We have a piece of equipment that needs replaced at Keeley Park. It has over 10,000 hours on it. We have a broken axle to repair if we're going to keep it, which is, that cost is greater than the value of the piece of equipment, so it's time to replace it. So this is a request to purchase a new skid steer. It's probably the most valuable and has the most utility, does a lot of different things. It's a very valuable piece. So anyways, we're requesting approval.
Questions?
Did you get more than one bid?
Yeah, we use My Deal, which has been the county's practice, so they've already vetted and done the pricing, so we know if we're buying it through My Deal, that's according to the state, the best deal we're going to get.
Thank you.
How did you go about selecting Bobcat? Was that the best price or preferred?
Yeah, again, we went through My Deal, again, so that's the best price according to My Deal, who's already put out the bids and did the pre-negotiation. In this particular case, we then go to a dealer who represents that My Deal price, so they'll guarantee it, and then we test it. They actually brought the piece in, and we drove it for a couple weeks for free and actually moved some snow with it while we had it. And
This was low bid, and
yeah,
it's what you need.
yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Not any motion and support? Have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. You've got your Bobcat. Moving on to 4H, Parks Mobile Stage Unit.
Okay, this is a unique piece of equipment. It's probably the first time you've seen something like this in the county's at least recent history, and probably the only time you will. This is a mobile stage unit that allows us the flexibility of doing events in all of our county parks, particularly at Keeley Park. It also, so we have a secondary stage during the fair as an example. We have an application that we'll bring to you all when it's fully vetted for a large country music festival that's looking to book in September of this year, and put on an event. This stage would be rented to them and used for that. At the Cascades, we do 28 shows a year, and we'd like more flexibility in being able to relocate where the performers perform and take advantage of the Cascades and the hillside for seating as an example. I was fortunate to have a piece of equipment almost identical to this for 25 years in my tenure in Battle Creek. It went out between 78 and 82 times a year, from everything from the Battle Creek Symphony to the brass band into the park system, and was rented by those groups as well as used by our department in doing a lot of special events programming used for parades in the community. So we need a stage, or we're going to buy stage equipment anyways for the new event center at some point in order to do shows. This will allow us to actually pull this in. It's sized. We've checked all the specifications. Our doors are sized, so we can pull this right into the event center. It's a one, you push the button hydraulically, the stage opens, the roof opens, has all the appropriate trusses to hold the sound system safely, hold the lighting system safely. Takes about an hour to set up fully, takes less than an hour to tear back down, has a gooseneck hitch system that fits our existing pickup trucks in parks, allows us to hitch it up and have it on the road and back in storage in a very, very short period of time. So we feel this is the right time to buy this. This is the right opportunity. The dollars to fund it do come from the newly funded capital program from our millage, and was one of the items that was on the list of what we felt were necessary items to enhance programming and quality of life in the community.
Is this for exclusive use at Keeley Park, or can outside townships rent it?
No, we will have a policy. If we purchase it, there'll be a policy that we've begun developing that'll allow it for rental to political bodies, nonprofit groups, who would, now they'd need to, we need to recoup some of our cost for buying it, as well as our labor to haul it out and set it up and take it back. But that's what was happening in the last community where I had a piece of equipment like this. It was available in townships, villages. The city of Jackson, I would imagine, would have some desire to use it, as well as some of the nonprofit groups in their special event applications, like the hydroplane races out at Grass Lake would have a use for this. Several of the special events at the Cascades or at Sparks County Park that occur, like the Grand Prix, would have a desire to use a unit like this. So it is really, we would own it, but it's really meant to be a community asset.
Thank you.
Good morning. How you doing? Good. Good. Well, I'm super excited about this. I mean, I remember when we first started talking about this on the fair board, and you brought the idea up of the county purchasing a mobile stage in this fashion, and now here we are.
Yep.
So I think it's a excellent idea. I just have a couple of questions to be clarified. One, I'm curious if we're going to look into purchasing lights and sound to go with this, because I don't see that anywhere in the bid,
Right.
so I'm assuming that right now we're just purchasing the stage itself.
Yeah, we're taking it one step at a time. This particular, we want to get the stage, we want to get it into use. We'll rent, we test drove this, we rented this identical unit from a company here in Michigan for last year's Palooza at the Falls, our Journey rock show band group, and that went over very, very well. So we really liked how it worked. So we'll do the same thing. We get the stage, and we'll likely rent, where it's our production, we'll rent sound and light, get used to seeing how it sets up, tears down, and then from there we'll begin to look at and price out what kind of sound and light we might possess for ourselves. Some of the groups will likely not need or want the kind of you do with a concert show, but more of a PA system, because they may maybe using it more for presentation purposes, and then some groups may on their own rent from local vendors who can supply the sound and light. But we want to test it first, baby steps, own this unit, and then see how that all works before we go out and figure out what the right sound and light system would be.
Okay, thank you. And then the next question I had was based around, in there that you mentioned that there will be a training given for some individuals to learn how to operate the staging itself. I was just curious who would be trained, and then what the long-range game plan would be to make sure that information is retained within the county. Just in case someone leaves or somebody new comes in, who exactly would be trained? Is it going to be all of the staff? Or what staff will be trained?
Yeah, the events manager, Emily Thomas, Kyle Lewis, and then at least 3 of our maintenance staff, our park superintendent, Jack McLuhan, and then likely Josh and Landon would both be trained also. Hopefully all those people don't leave, so it would get passed down. The real issue in this initial training is that it's big, it looks sturdy, but anytime you hook something up to a truck and you start pulling it down the road, it can warp. This is a little more expensive unit because we made a decision to buy a steel-framed unit. They sell an aluminum unit at about a $15,000 or $18,000 discount, but every one of my peers I talked to who have bought the aluminum have regretted, because the aluminum warps pretty easily moving it down the road, and then you got all kinds of problems. So we bought a piece of equipment that's heavier, needed a little bit heavier truck, but we happen to own those trucks, so that was good for us. But it's a little heavier and sturdier unit, but it still can be broken. So understanding how to properly set it up, how to level the stage. I mean, you're going to be setting this out in parks and fields, in a lot of different situations, and you want to make sure that you level it and set it up so you don't create any safety hazards. So that's what the training is for.
All right. Now, I think my third question you kind of already answered. The only thing I didn't hear you mention was just general public use. I heard you say nonprofits and other governmental.
And we can send it out in the private sector, kind of the same way we do already rent facilities to the private sector. So I didn't mean to leave those folks out.
Just wanted a clarification. All right. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Yep.
We have rented a unit similar to this, you said.
Yeah.
What is the rental cost?
We paid a little over $6,000 to rent it privately. That is not a price that we would recommend. We haven't put our pricing together, but for instance, the Showmobile in Battle Creek, which has been in existence for now literally 30 years and still going strong, generally rents for the day for somewhere right around $800 for the day. And that covers the cost of the crews delivering it and coming back and tearing it down. Oftentimes, we then have to have a setup day and a tear down day fee, because they want it for a particular day, but they want it set up the day before and they want it taken down the day after, not the day of. So we haven't put those prices together, but on average, I'd say in our Battle Creek market, they were spending somewhere around $1,200 to $1,300 to rent it for a full day event. So.
Okay, so the purchase price is equal to approximately 22 events where we rent it.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay. What truck or trailer would be needed to pull this? Do we?
We already own them. We have 2 different vehicles. We have a dually full-ton pickup truck in Parks, but you can pull it with a 3/4 ton, and we own two of those, and both of them have the gooseneck apparatus in the bed already set up, because we already own two of our own trailers that we move mowing equipment around with that are pulled with gooseneck trailers.
All right. The light and sound systems, are they included in this package?
They are not. They are not.
Any idea what those will cost?
Do not. We have not vetted those at this point. In the light and sound industry, it's how big you want to be or how small you want to be. It can run from $4,000 or $5,000 to $100,000. I can't imagine us getting into that business to the upper end of that or even the middle of that. If we were going to buy sound and light, we would be buying some basic sound and light. Most of the bands that would play on this, if it's going to be a show, country music show, a rock show, those folks come with their own sound and light. We buy those shows for the Cascades all the time, and we don't provide their sound and light. They bring their own sound and light.
Okay, but do you envision adding sound and light to this at some point?
At some point, but again, it would be much like I did in my past experience. It would be moderate sound and light. It would run a local band with 4 people. It would not do what the Rock Show Band, which is the name of the group we hired, which is a national band that tours. We wouldn't go out and buy the amount of sound and light they brought to that show. Much like you see those pictures, those are, in the picture you see the sound speakers hanging. Those are speakers well beyond anything we would ever buy. Those are for a major band. But the good news is the stage truss system is spec'd to be able to carry their equipment. So if we do hire a band of that caliber who brings their own equipment, we can hang their equipment safely. We are spec'd for it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Kennedy.
How you doing?
Good.
So you had in your quote here, there is a page that addresses lighting and sound. Commissioner Bear wants to look at it. Am I looking at the correct thing? It had a figure of 13,830 if you went with the whole package.
Yeah, that's I refer to that as the PA system.
Good enough. Okay.
Again, it's probably not show quality, although if I got a no gender offense, one man or one woman playing an acoustical guitar, they could probably work off that system.
Gotcha.
That system is more part of the built-in system, as there's a built-in generator also to supply power that you could stand there and do a public speaking engagement.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We've asked every question I can think of, some twice. We ready for a motion and support? We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed, the same. You've got your trailer.
Thank you, sir.
Stage, sir. Next up, 4I, Parks Landscaping Architectural Service Contracts.
Yes, we put out a request for qualifications in January for the purpose of trying to narrow the field. We've got a number of projects coming up over the next 10 years, but particularly the next 3 years, which is the time frame we're looking at here. And we're faced with the task of putting out a request for proposal for landscape design services. Every single project under the purchasing policy, and that's going to take up a lot of time and really slow us down. And we're really going to find it difficult if we end up with 4 or 5 or 6 landscape architects on 4 or 5 or 6 different projects. So our purpose in bringing this to you all was that we narrowed the field, and what we're asking is that these 3 firms out of the 18 that sent us their qualifications, we interviewed 6, and narrowed it to these 3 firms that we believe fit our needs moving forward. So we have the Smith Group out of Ann Arbor, who's currently doing the work on the fairgrounds. We have Spicer out of, they have several offices, but they mostly come out of Muskegon, but they have offices here in the local area too. And they've done a lot of work and have a lot of already local knowledge, particularly at Sparks County Park. And then Beckett Rader, which is a more smaller firm and just over here in Chelsea. And Beckett Rader has done a lot of work for the city. It's done work for a number of townships in the area. They have not worked for us directly. They come very highly recommended. They were awesome in the interview process. They're particularly strong in the area of engaging the public and citizenry in design dialogue, which is we think is really important with a number of these projects. So we're asking this board to accept the recommendation to negotiate contracts over the next 3 years with each of these firms moving forward. So it'll be a project-by-project basis. They've provided us time and materials pricing, and what we'll do is each project will come back to this board for approval, but it'll be one of those three. We won't open it up to the whole world to put proposals in for those projects, if that makes any sense.
Basically have a contractual preferred vendor
Yeah.
that you've already interviewed, and they're your
Yes.
choice. We're just not to repeat the same
Correct.
process over and over and over for every project.
Correct.
Rodney?
Jeff, we start, for example, Keeley Park. I'd like to see that we stick with the same architect on that project.
Yes, that would be the idea. Each one, when they start on that project, they stay with that project. And again, the selection here is, the Smith Group, as an example, is a firm that tends to do very specialized, large types of projects, and they're very good at that. They're very creative. They have a full engineering, they have civil, they have electrical, they have all lighting engineers, so they work on some of these larger projects, but it doesn't make sense to use a firm of that size to work on some of the smaller projects that we have. And Beckett Rader is at the other end of the spectrum. I'm not going to say they're tiny, but they're a mid-size firm that has done a lot of work with the state and some of our surrounding counties and townships doing boat ramps, kayak and canoe launches, shoreline stabilization, those types of projects, and their price point to do that's going to be much lower than Smith Group would be. But they wouldn't be as nimble on larger projects where they don't have the staff. And then Spicer has got more of an engineering slant, and quite frankly, we put them on the list. They're outstanding, but they have 12 years worth of data on the Cascades, and we've got work to do. They understand those pumps intimately. They understand the underground infrastructure. They can tell me at 130 feet what water vein I'm going to hit if I have to drill a pump or I run out of water. They understand the lagoons and the hydraulics of the lagoons really well. So I don't want to lose that. So we would likely use them on projects that focus around the Cascades and Sparks County Park because they have that knowledge.
Morning, Jeff. So you will bring back to us bids from various contractors, okay?
Yeah.
But they'll be for specific products, like there'll be one company for Cascades, one company for the fairgrounds,
Yeah.
and so on.
So if we were moving ahead at some point here with replacing the remaining pumps and bringing the piping, which is 1932 cast iron piping, that when you touch it, it falls apart. But if you don't touch it, you're okay so far. Underground, and the same with the electrical. We'll do that at some point. That project, Spicer, we'd negotiate a contract with them to do the design and construction drawings. Then we'd bid it out to a contractor to do the actual work. But Spicer would stay with that project all the way through. If we're going to do a series of boat ramp renovations at Vineyard Lake, at Round Lake, at Grass Lake as an example, Swains Lake, we would bring in Beckett Rader in all likelihood and sit down and say, as a package, we want to look at these 5 boat ramps, we want to look at their issues, and we want to rebuild them so that they'll last another 40 years, and we'd negotiate a price for them to do the design and engineering, and they would stay with those they'd be bid out to a contractor who would actually do the work, but they would stay as the project manager and designer. They'd stay with the project all the way through. So there'll always be a bidding process where there'll be a general contractors doing the work, but whoever we assign out of this group and can negotiate. And quite honestly, the luxury of having 3 is if one of them we feel like we're not getting the best price, we can go to one of the other 2 and say, what can you do for us, and play them against each other. That's why we went with 3 rather than just had one company. It gave us that flexibility too. But we would narrow the field to these 3 and as far as the design engineering work is concerned. But once they've done the design engineering, it will always go out to bid. A general contractor recommendation will come to this board, and this board will approve moving forward with the project.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion? Any more discussion? Not any motion and support?
So moved.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Jeff. Next up, 4J, financial statements for January. Welcome, Cecilia.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay. So I'm here to report on January's financial statements. New year, so we have a percent of our budget is 1/12, so it'll be 8.3% of our budget that we need to report on. Year-to-date expenditures total was right at 8.2%, which is right below that number. And our revenue percent total is 2.9%, but the 3-year average is 2%. And we're going to talk about revenues and why the percentage is not at 8.3%. We'll have a discussion about that. So on page 2, one thing that I just want to talk about is whenever I prepare the financial statements, I do look at each of the department's percentages, and then we kind of figure out, why are we over the budget and percentage. So one of the department is our Board of Commissioners department was actually at 10.7%. And the reason why is that in January, we did report 6 months of dues at $7,607. So that's why for January, that it's higher than you normally would expect, because we do have other months of expenditures that are hitting the January line item. So we're fine with that. And the other department that I took a look at, if you turn to page 3, and it's right under miscellaneous non-departmental, it was 33.6% compared to the 8.3. And the reason why is because we had $430,000 worth of insurance that posted directly to January. So that's our whole year's worth of insurance that posted to January, and that's why that percentage is skewed too. Before we move to revenue, any questions on the expenditures?
Board?
Yes, Corey.
Kennedy?
I just noticed 2, school liaison program, as well as the jury commissioner, a little higher than the average as well. Didn't know if you knew why.
At 16.3%. I'd have to dig into that to figure out why, but I'd be happy to report back as to what was going on there.
The other's the jury commission at 14.1.
Okay. I did look at that. There was a lot of lunches. I think they just had a lot of juries that day, because I did look at that one. There was lunches and just fees that went out for jurors
Okay,
on that one.
thank you.
I will look into the 16.3.
Just email me on that, or,
I'll send it to Mike, and then he'll send it to you.
thank you.
Okay, sounds great. All right, any other questions? Good question, thank you. All right, so we can move on to our revenues, and like I said, the revenues come in a lot different than, our expenditures go out a whole lot quicker than our revenues come in. And there's, looking at a lot of the ones that, especially the ones that were very low or had 0%, I do have notes as to why. So, for example, on the circuit court, there's an intergovernmental grant that's received quarterly. And then also the prosecuting attorney victims' right, I did look that up, and we did receive the payment in February. It was just a month late. Road Patrol is also quarterly reimbursements. The JNet grant, they're only going to receive 1 or 2 payments, according to Chris Cole. And then the next one, the Marine Law, is just once a year payment, and we're going to receive that soon. Emergency Management was also reports quarterly. And the next one, under the School Liaison, that we receive payments twice a year, May and December. And then GIS, they only bill once a year in August. And also the Human Resources, it's also a quarterly payment. So I think based on how, just looking at the history of how revenues come in, on a quarterly basis, what I want to do is prepare a report to present to you, looking at dollars and seeing where we're at on a quarterly basis on how our actual revenue dollars have come in based on what we would expect on a quarterly payment. So, are there any questions on that?
Questions, board? Last chance. Thank you for your report.
Oh, no problem.
Vaughn, you have another item?
I have a couple.
4K, budget amendments.
All right, so this one is having to do with some minor 2019 requests that we've already received for budget amendments. The first one, when you just look at the revenue side, it says prosecuting attorney child support. This is they're wanting to do between friend of court and the prosecutor's office, they want to do an IT security audit. And this is her portion that she's going to actually receive back as reimbursement for the state. So we're increasing the revenue there. District Court is wanting to implement opportunity for fingerprinting fees. So they've asked for $20,000 to be added to their budget for revenue items. And then the next one, the prosecuting attorney victim rights reimbursement for victims. This is the one where they have a new grant, and they're actually having some positions that are going to be funded with this grant. So we want to go ahead and record the revenue for that. And then on the next page, under the expenditures, the first one, the community corrections, this is something that I learned, which is really interesting. It's actually mandated by the state and Michigan Department of Corrections. It's to be carried forward over and to remain in the general fund. So that's why there is an amendment there. The next section has to do with the animal shelter, and I've been working with Lydia with her budget and her fringes, and coming up with what she needs. And we're going ahead and request a budget amendment for that. The district court, in addition to the additional revenue of $20,000, they wanted to add $10,000 of professional fees. And then facilities requested some additional contractual services for lawn maintenance, and that's what you'll see there. The child care, that has to do with some additional, I think that's actually lawn care too. Human Resources, this is a budget amendment doing his reorganization. And then the victim rights and the prosecuting, that has to do with the new wages, or the new positions that they wanted based on the new grant that they received. So any questions on these requests?
Questions, board? Okay, we need a motion support to approve the budget amendments.
Okay.
Support.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Next up, we have 2019 capital improvement budget plan carryover.
Yep. These have to do with our 2018 projects that we've identified that we need to carry over to 2019. And we ask for approval of those.
Questions? Discussion? Motion? We have a motion support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Much, Cecilia. Item 4M, Administrator Controller proposed updates on Policy 1050. You or Deb?
Oh, either one could do it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, guys. Since we changed the name of the different committees, and then, of course, the funding level, meaning purchase capacity, the committees can go up to 75 versus they used to be 50. That's what you're looking at here is some of these changes. We're just cleaning up the language. Anybody really have any questions on it or anything?
Is this changing the levels of which we,
It's what we have already approved. We're just making this policy meet what's already approved.
okay, discussion? We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Board. We'll move on to item 5. We need to pay our claims. Everybody seen the claims and signed off? Motion and support. Passes unanimously. Other minutes, didn't see anything there. April reporting schedule, see nothing there. We return to public comment. Last chance at public comment. Committee member comment. No comments, meeting adjourned. Thank you, Board.